HalleluYah Scriptures, Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 16. And Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mitzrite female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, See, Yahuah has kept me from bearing children. Please go into my female servant. It might be that I am built up by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mitzrite, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abram, My wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahuah judge between you and me. And Abram said to Sarai, See, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of Yahuah found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's female servant, where have you come from, and where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of Yahuah said to her, Return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hand. And the messenger of Yahuah said to her, I am going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be counted. And the messenger of Yahuah said to her, See, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Yishma'el, because Yahuah has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and dwell over against all his brothers. And she called the name of Yahuah who spoke to her, You are the El who sees. For she said, Even here have I seen after him who sees me. That is why the well was called Be'er-lahai Ruah. See, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Yishma'el. And Abram was 86 years old, and Hagar bore Yishma'el to Abram. HalleluYah Scriptures, Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 17. And it came to be, when Abram was 99 years old, that Yahuah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be perfect. And I give my covenant between me and you, and shall greatly increase you. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke with him, saying, As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name called Abram, but your name shall be Ephraim, because I shall make you a father of many nations. And I shall make you bear fruit exceedingly, and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you and their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim. And Elohim said to Abraham, As for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between me and you. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house, or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed. He who is born in your house, and he who is bought with your silver, has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And Elohim said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I shall barak her, and also give you a son by her. And I shall barak her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of peoples are to be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? And is Sarah, who is 90 years old, to bear a child? And Abraham said to Elohim, Oh, let Yishma'el live before you. And Elohim said, No, Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yitzhak. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Yishma'el, I have heard you. See, I shall barak him, and shall make him bear fruit, and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with you, Yitzhak, whom Sarah is to bear to you at this appointed time next year. And when he had ended speaking with him, Elohim went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Yishma'el, his son, and all those born in his house, and all those bought with his silver, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that same day as Elohim told him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Yishma'el his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and his son Yishma'el were circumcised that day. And all the men of his house, born in the house or bought with silver from a foreigner, were circumcised with him.